Coming up on Not the End, NDE.
I was non-spiritual. I knew nothing about near-death experiences. I knew nothing about any of this. Then information started to filter through, almost like telepathy, if you like, telling me that this person was actually there to guide me. This person was like the gatekeeper to my soul, my higher self.
Many have died and returned to tell of their near-death experiences. Their incredible stories revealed to the living that this is not the end.
Hi, my name's David Ditchfield, and my story begins at a rail station in Cambridge, UK, in 2006. I'd been seeing a friend off that day, and I was helping her onto the train with her bags. I gave her a kiss and a hug to say goodbye, and as I stepped back to get off that train, the bottom part of my coat got trapped in the automatic closing doors. I couldn't pull it free. I tried everything, of course. I yelled out for help, a guard, banging on the doors, but nothing. Then the engine started to rev, and I had this sudden sensation of absolute terror that I might not survive this. I thought, this is it. I'm going to die. But I went into what they call fight or flight mode, and clearly I went into fight mode, I guess, and as the train started to edge its way out of the station, it picked up so much speed. I felt every gear shift, that I ran with it at first. Then I lost my footing. I was dragged along the platform and eventually between the platform edge and the speeding train itself. The train seemed to almost morph into this huge mechanical beast that was determined to take me. As I was sucked into this dark void, that moment was really horrific. It was violent, it was painful, it was relentless. It seemed to be pounding me at such a great speed, but at the same time it was going on forever. Finally I was thrown in between the tracks. I was there lying down with my face nose into the gravel. I can still remember the smell of that oily gravel, but I kept my face in there, knowing that I had to do that to fully survive. And the train moved on eventually. So the emergency guys arrived really quick. They jumped down onto the track and started cutting through my clothes. They got me into the back of an ambulance and we sped off down the highway with the siren blasting for 30 minutes. When we arrived at the hospital, there was a whole team of medics waiting there to get to work on me. And I remember I was losing a lot of blood at this stage, and I also remember hearing fear in the voices of the consultants and surgeons as they were working on me. It was at this stage that I left my body. I left the pain and agony that I was in. I left the drama of the hospital, and I was suddenly transported into what appeared to be a small darkened room, a small darkened space that was very warm and comforting. I figured straight away that I hadn't made it. I thought, this is it, I must be dead. I didn't fear it, I didn't try to resist it. I don't know why, but I didn't though. Instead I looked around to try and get my bearings. I kind of hoisted myself up, and as I looked through the darkness, I saw various orbs of colour slowly pulsating all around me, and as they closed in on me, I just saw that these beautiful colours were just making me feel calm and safe, and I trusted in that. I don't know why, but I just trusted in it. I wanted to check my body because I knew about the severity of the injuries that I'd received. I wanted to see how it was all looking, and to my surprise everything was intact, not a single scratch or bruise, nothing. I realised I was no longer clothed, but I was covered in this blue material. It was like a sort of satin silky material that was covering me, almost like a child's comfort blanket, and that's the effect it was having. I also realised I was no longer laid on the hospital trolley that I'd been on for some time in the emergency department. I was now on what appeared to be a huge slate rock, a granite rock, something like you would see at Stonehenge or a medieval altar, and it was just like really, really remarkably comfortable to be laid out on. So I lay back on this rock and I closed my eyes and I allowed myself to drift. As time went on, I felt the presence of somebody near me. So I lifted my head and looked, and there, just stood at my feet, was this person, this androgynous person, this being of light with this pure white blonde hair and skin that was radiating light from within, wearing a very simple contemporary black t-shirt, nothing too ethereal, just this simple black t-shirt. Then I said out loud, "I know you, don't I? Where do I know you from? I know your face. Where do I know you from?" And this person just kept smiling and looking back at me with a knowing smile and said nothing. But I laid back my head, feeling safe in the knowledge that this person was trusty. Then information started to filter through, almost like telepathy, if you like, telling me that this person was actually there to guide me. This person was like the gatekeeper to my soul, my higher self. So I closed my eyes and continued to drift and drift. Then I felt the presence of more people around me. So I opened my eyes once more, lifted my head, and either side of me were two female forms now. The girl to my right was, well, she was quite European to look at. She had a simple brown, again contemporary dress on, and long brown hair, dark skin. Whereas the girl to my left, she was more Asian Indian, American Indian, or maybe Brazilian. I don't know. And she was wearing this beautiful, ornate, traditional dress. But what struck me was that they got their hands slowly hovering over every single contour of my body without actually touching it. They were just slowly going over all the contours. And I felt a force from their hands which was so powerful, but yet so gentle at the same time. It was a sensation of unconditional love coming from their hands. This caused me to close my eyes once more and relax. Then I was being told that they were healing not just the physical trauma that I'd just been through. They were going deeper than that. They were taking off the layers of emotional hurt that I carry with me, that we all carry. We all carry emotional scars, don't we? And all those years of baggage, as we call it, were being taken off me bit by bit. And they were getting down to the pure essence of my soul. They were getting right down, and the more they took off me, the lighter I felt, the more connected I felt, the more present I felt. This was so new to me, all this. This was so incredibly new, so liberating. This continued on for some time, and I, of course, continued to bathe in this beautiful sensation. I started to also think about my family, because they'd just turned up at the hospital at the point where I'd left my body. So of course I figured I must be dead, and they'll be very traumatized. So I wanted to see them. So I kind of hoisted myself over the edge of this huge rock that I was now lay on, looking down, because I thought if I looked down, I may see them in the hospital. But I couldn't see them at all. What I did see was this awe-inspiring view. It was a huge waterfall of stars. A waterfall the size of Niagara or Victoria Falls. But instead of billions of tons of water toppling over the edge, it was billions of sparkling stars cascading over and jumping, and shooting stars flying across the middle. It was so awe-inspiring, and I was going, wow. I looked down and I felt like I was looking one galaxy into another, and the more I fixed my gaze, the more I saw. I started to see formations of colours, again, reds and greens and oranges. They were nebulas, which was completely new to me. I'd never had any interest in the universe at all. To me, the universe was walking down the street at night and just seeing a black sky with sparkling stars. I didn't realise that colours existed until now. Then, threw myself back over onto the rock, and realised, of course, I was no longer in what appeared to be a darkened space. I was now in the universe itself. I was moving forward with the universal energy at great speed, yet with great calmness. All these contrasting things, like power and calm, all seemed to coincide. It was amazing. And I felt complete. I felt part of the universe, and I felt part of that universal pull. So I pulled myself over, and I remember thinking, okay, well, I can't see my family, but hopefully I'll see them at some stage soon, here maybe. Or if not, they're going to experience all the joys and wonders that I'm experiencing right now when their time comes to pass. So I was okay with it all. There was no sense of negativity or fear or vulnerability, or it was all totally positive, everything that I felt in that realm. But the most profound moment of the whole experience was to come right at the end. As I lay out on the huge rock with my eyes closed, being healed, I suddenly felt that sensation of unconditional love intensify. I felt like every single molecule of my body was vibrating with this energy of love. It was so strong and powerful that I had to open my eyes once more to see what was happening. And as I looked, just beyond, the being of light still stood at my feet. The gatekeeper was this huge tunnel of white light coming through the stars, coming through the universe, closing in on me. This tunnel of white light was surrounded by very dramatic flames that were slowly rotating around. And again, there was no sense of fear. Normally I'd be going, what? But no, I was just awe-inspired. And the sensation was just getting stronger and stronger the closer it got. And the knowledge I was being given was that this is the source of all love. This is the source of all creation. This is God, not in the form of God that I'd always figured, in a human form, as most faith leaders to. This was God, in this huge tunnel of white light, getting closer and closer to me. And as I felt this energy of love and the power of it and the knowledge of it, I remember laughing out loud, and I threw my head back with joy. And it was at that point that I came crashing back into my body. I was back in the hospital. The beautiful light I've been seeing was now replaced by fluorescent strip. The agony came rushing straight through my body. The noise was like overkill in my ears. It was just, but you know what? I was still filled with all that joy as I came crashing back to earth. I remember my family were stood around me, and I was so pleased to see them. I was so pleased. And I wanted to speak to my friend Anna, who was sat at the back of the emergency department looking completely pale. She stepped forward. I was worried about her, and I said, "Are you okay?" And she said, "I'm okay, but I thought you were dead. I thought you were dead. They announced over the speakers that you were dead. I can't believe you're alive." And I said, "Anna, I've got something really important to tell you. Something amazing has just happened." And she gently put her hand over my mouth and said, "Not now, you can tell me later." So when I came through from the anaesthetic, I was lying in a hospital room all by myself with a machine bleeping next to me. I was in shock following the horrific accident going under that train. I was dealing with all that, but also I was trying to deal with the spiritual awakening, this whole thing I knew nothing about. I was non-spiritual. I knew nothing about near-death experiences. I knew nothing about any of this. But I felt that I must have been sent back for a reason. I thought to myself, what is my purpose? What is my goal? I've got to try and find out what that goal is. What is that purpose? I was scared I was going to forget the whole thing, the whole experience, and I wanted to share it with people, So I thought, I'll do a painting. I'll do a huge painting, something I've never done before in my life, something like a Michelangelo painting, those dramatic biblical scenes, that were depicted in those Renaissance paintings. Anyhow, I got out of hospital and I was recovering at my sister's house, and I'd got this huge white canvas just leaning against the wall in the room that I was recuperating in, and I'd look at it daily, and I just was longing for strength to be able to start it. Physical strength, that is, And once I did start it, I was apprehensive because I didn't want to get this wrong, but once I started, I realised I was still very much attached to this other realm, and I felt that I was being given I was being helped, I was being given like a crash course in how to apply colours to a painting, how to bring flesh tones alive, not with just one colour, but lots of colours, with blues and greens and whatever, to bring all these different things into a more three-dimensional appearance. And I was blown away each day. I would stop and go, wow, and I'd go, thank you so much, because I knew I was being helped. But I wanted to take this one stage further, because people were starting to come in and ask me about the painting, and I started to talk more about my experience and what had happened, and people wanted to listen. Then I figured, if I take it one stage further with a piece of music, then I've got sound and vision, these different dimensions to try and explain how it was. I started to write a song on an old synthesizer that I got, that I dug out the loft, but that wasn't happening. It wasn't happening in the same way as the painting. But one afternoon I was watching an old movie on the TV, and I was just nonchalantly playing with my right hand, and this chord progression suddenly came through, and I thought, wow, that's beautiful. And all I got was my dad's old cassette recorder from his garage, and I was just I recorded those chords and played them back, and I thought, this is something that needs to be performed by an orchestra. Again, something I'd never done. I can't read or write music, but I didn't care. I thought, I'd done it with the paintings, why not? And I'd become friends with a cello player in the local orchestra. So I spoke to her about this, and she said maybe we could perform it. So my brother helped me out here. He said, look, you're going to need to write the music in musical format. You can't just give the orchestra cassettes of all the different parts, So that's what I did. He gave me this app. He said, I've got this app, I'm going to give it to you, and I'm going to give you my old computer and a keyboard. And when you play the notes on the keyboard, it will transpose it into music notation. So that's what it did. And that's how I got the score together. So the orchestra agreed to perform it. And they said, would you say a few words to the local press? I said, yeah, sure. So I did do. And then the local press recognised me, and they said, you were the guy who went under the train. We reported your story. And I said, oh, yeah. They said, this is going on the front page. We love it. So it did do. Then, of course, the phone started ringing. Then the BBC got in touch. And then next thing I know, we were sold out. The concert sold out. And the premiere performance was just absolutely amazing. It was just beautiful. People have said to me, you came back with these remarkable gifts from your NDE, which is lovely. But all these creative ideas were within me. And what I realised was that when I was in that realm, I was complete. As I say, when all the layers were taken off me, and I felt love for myself, and I felt self-worth, and I felt present within me. Once we allow that love to come through us, we find self-love, and then we find self-worth, and we're able to discover the authentic qualities that are hidden deep, that have been kind of squashed beneath the blueprint that was stamped on us from our early years in education or what have you, and carry on throughout our lives. But also the knowledge that time really doesn't exist, only the present moment exists. In that realm there was no past or future, just the present moment, which was still and beautiful. Also recognizing that universal energy is within us all. We just don't even know it, we've forgotten that we're part of nature even. Mankind has just developed at such a rate that everything is led by technology for us now, which is great. I love technology, I do, but it's good to try and connect with nature and connect with the universal energy, because that universal energy wants us to create, it wants us to keep developing and moving forward, It's a very beautiful and positive energy. And once we align ourselves with that energy, I feel that that's when we start to discover our true authentic selves.
How is this story meaningful to you? If you're watching on YouTube, tell us in the comments. If you're listening to the podcast, leave a review and tell us there. If you or someone you know have a similar kind of story, please also leave that in the comments or send us a message at our website. Maybe we'll feature you. Visit nottheendnde.com. Be blessed and a blessing, my friends.